Hello. I think this one is finally working. Okay then. Hope everyone's comfy. Welcome to the final talk of the day. We got a panel, students in industry, which is a pretty vague oxymoron of a title. But basically we're going to be looking at the experiences of junior artists and students and kind of navigating those first few years of their career and contrasting that with some advice or maybe some of the experiences of some more senior artists and their own journey through it. It's just going to be a chat through. I'm just here to keep it flowing, but as I stumble on my words. But I think I'm just going to start off by getting everyone to introduce themselves. So my name's Adam. I'm the guy in the floral shirt who's been bothering you all day. And we'll start around on our student side.
Hello, I'm Matt. I'm a junior concept artist. I usually work in environments. I'm pretty new. I haven't got a job yet, but still learning.
Hello, my name is Santi. I'm a junior illustrator and character designer, and yeah, been working freelance for 1 year and a half, and now keep studying, keep improving.
Hello, I'm Victoria. I'm an environment concept artist, and currently I'm studying in Netherlands, but at the same time I'm also interning for Paranormal Studios.
Well, I'm Christoph. Hi. I actually try to remember when I started working. It should be 20 years ago, probably. So I've been doing maybe 15 years, no, 14 years of freelance. Then I'm employed now for 5 years at Character, basically. Yeah. So you wouldn't know that I'm that old, but...
Hi, I'm Will. I'm a digital illustrator and currently working as an art director at Envar Entertainment.
And I mean, I guess whilst we've got you on the mic, Will, I've kind of arbitrarily split the sides up into students and kind of senior artists. Like, do you still think of yourself as a student sometimes, or do you just really see yourself as a professional now?
No, absolutely. I think constantly, I think once you get to a point where you're feeling quite comfortable in the work, you do definitely miss expanding your skills. It's kind of never ending. So yeah, still a student, and I'm lucky that I get to work with such talented people at Envar, so constantly learning from the people that I work with as well.
One more thing, just kind of on that would be like, do you know in your head what kind of would separate, because I don't think you'd really introduce yourself as a student to someone. Do you kind of in your head have an idea of what kind of separates you from a student? Like what's a quality that kind of separates, some of the professionals that you know from some of the students that you know?
He's getting paid.
Well, yeah, that I think there's definitely an element of, I guess, obviously experience in the industry, but that also kind of gives you a good framework in terms of how to approach your own ideas, whether it's in terms of like, what makes a successful design or how to build upon an idea or an IP that you have. It works in the industry for a reason, and at the end of the day, for commercial work, you're producing a product, but you can still apply the same lines of thinking to your personal work to make something that's visually successful.
And then I guess for our students, like obviously we've done an introduction through yourselves, but I guess you kind of introduced how you work, but it would be cool to know like what your goal is. Like, do you guys kind of have like a dream project, studio, or just a job title that you're going after? Like, what are you kind of studying towards?
I think just getting paid to do art is the first goal. I think I'm not shooting too far ahead of that right now because it's extended so long. But yeah, getting paid is the first step for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and also once you get there, you're so happy to be there. It's easy to get overwhelmed by work, and my goal now is to try to reach my dream jobs, right? Maybe some Envar, some Sixmore, but also do that and not sacrifice the work-life balance that I have right now, which is something that I did before, and that's like a priority to me.
Well, I feel for me, if you would ask me like a year ago, I would say like, oh, I want to work for Ubisoft. I want to work on Star Wars. And right now, I would say my goals are a bit more I wouldn't say realistic, but a bit more on the ground. Like for me, the main thing is just to work in a company where I really like feel like it's a good community of people that like push themselves. And I feel like for me, like starting at the university was the starting point when I realized that like, oh, people can really give you a lot, and that's what I'm aiming for. Like it doesn't really matter what project. Of course, it has to be art, but other than that, I just want to work with nice people that I like.
And has that come from kind of like your experience of your first few jobs? Like, did you have a hard time where you're like, oh, I've got the job, but it's still hard working with difficult people? Not trying to throw any shade to anyone you've worked with, but like, has that been informed by your experience in starting out? Like you thought you got what you wanted, but then you realized, actually, I just kind of want something a bit more stable or, friendly to my own kind of work-life balance?
In a way, but I wouldn't say it was like working with shitty people, but more like working with amazing people, like the positive experience and just seeing how the right people can really push you so far. It's just amazing, I think.
And just to kind of pick up on something Santi said a minute ago as well, where you were saying, once you've kind of got that job, you sounded like you were more satisfied with your work-life balance now that you've started kind of getting freelance work. It sounded like you were maybe pushing yourself a little hard in your student days, or there's something changed there. Like, do you think you've got more of a balance now that you've got a job as opposed to being a student, or like, is it something you're still working on? How you feel about that?
I mean, definitely working on, right? But yeah, no, I was pushing it hard when I was a student, which I still am, right? And yeah, when I got the jobs, I was pushing it even harder and taking maybe jobs that I shouldn't have taken, cool projects, but I already had some projects, so too many hours maybe, and to the point where I had to quit them, And now I'm not working anymore. I just taking some mentorships and improving my skills and regaining that, that drive that I had before that I kind of lost because I was so burned out with the crazy hours, and just learning and loving the craft again and having a little bit of social life, which is good, right?
Yeah, that's something I could also relate to, taking on. I've still not really got to the point where I feel very comfortable saying no, kind of like whenever an opportunities come.
Same.
Yeah, and I wonder if, maybe the more senior artists, like, have you guys kind of found, like, when did you kind of find the point that you felt comfortable enough in yourself, or you kind of knew yourself enough to say no to some projects? Because I feel like it's a pretty common problem for students and juniors to just feel like they have to take everything that they get given.
No, I can say no pretty much from the start, or I could, because I was actually, before I started in games, I was working as an illustrator for ad agencies and stuff for, 6-7 years. And there are so many shit jobs that you just have to say no to, so this was a good learning experience, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also, again, something that comes with experience is knowing how to set your own boundaries and, being realistic about, still maintaining a work-life balance as well. It does get tricky, obviously, when you're working and something golden comes along that you can't pass up. I think, again, it's how you manage your commitments and make sure that you approach things in a sensible way that, make sure that you're taking care of your health and your social life and mental health as well.
And I guess, back to the students, when you were like studying or looking for those jobs, did you have sort of any like opportunities created maybe by like a mentor, meeting a particular artist, going to a job, a conference, anything like that, you kind of had a bit of a jump forward, like, no matter how big or small it is? Like, have you noticed something that kind of catalyzed a change?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like taking the step, and obviously not a job, but meeting people, and it was taking the step to fly to Poland and study with some of you guys. I think being brave and putting yourself out there, that was a huge thing for me. I think it pushed me to want to improve more and meet more people. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like putting yourself out there and going to events and meeting people and engaging in it. Nowadays, it's so easy with these core communities. There's like many of them where you can meet amazing people, but also in events I met some amazing people that last year that I came here to this event with. But also, yeah, the mentorships are big for me at least, where you get to meet amazing artists and humanize them. You know, you become friends with them even. So they are not your idols anymore. I mean, they still are, but you know. And also you meet people that have the same goals as you, so they can push you, and you can push them in the same direction. And also have like some great breakthrough ideas and yeah, contacts, as I said.
Well, for me, I would say that the first big step was going to university. And it was right during the corona, so the first 2 years I didn't know my classmates at all. And then when I came there, it was just a wow effect. Like I was like, wow, like there are other concept artists and we can actually share tips and we have such similar journeys and struggles and everything. And that was like the turning point. And then of course, like going here last year and meeting all the friends from Slovakia and just like, yeah, it's amazing how that can like shape you as a human, but also as an artist.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think I had a similar experience where I worked as a graphic designer for 6 years too long than I should have. I really didn't enjoy that. But then similarly, I took a trip to a concept art event. And it was like the first time I kind of got to see people who I think really looked like me. And they were all doing great. Like, well, not all of them, but enough were doing great for me to feel like there is actually, you know, a fair chance of getting the thing that you're chasing after, and it's so easy to imprint yourself on people who are further ahead, and you know, it makes it easy to help people who are further behind you as well. So yeah, I'd agree that like getting out there's a pretty massive thing. I mean, from seniors' point of view as well, like when you see junior artists work or you kind of meet them at events like this and that, have you noticed kind of like any behaviors or traits in people that do you like pick up on certain people and feel like they're probably going to be all right? And is it normally through looking at their work or talking to them as people? Like, I guess I'm saying, like, what do you look for in, say, like a student or a junior that kind of makes you feel reassured about how they're doing?
Man, that's a tough question. I'd say it's a bit of both. I think you can have, you know, like amazing artists that can't communicate so well, and that works. But you can also have people that come in maybe at like an earlier stage in their development, but they are great to talk to, and they're like a sponge. Like we have so many guys that we work with that they started out at a junior level, and just because they ask so many questions and are inquisitive and they're not shy to communicate, they'll go a lot further. But yeah, I think it's a balance of both. I would say just in terms of like a trend with a lot of the portfolios we see, and I guess this comes back to what Gerald and Michal were talking about this morning, is just in terms of like when you're developing your portfolio as a student, don't make necessarily one specific project or one specific client your be-all and end-all for your portfolio. Like as an art director, I'd much rather see a portfolio of work that reflects the person as opposed to like a specific project. It's a lot easier to get excited about, and I think you do need to kind of, I know it's a very generic thing and lots of people say it, but it's the biggest thing that's going to make you stand out, as if you have something that's unique. And especially now when it's getting easier and easier to make things look a certain way, regardless of what tools you use. The idea is always the most important thing. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure if I covered it.
Yeah, I agree. But for me personally, I think main thing would actually be not the technical skills or the skills as an artist, but what I look for in juniors is personality, actually, because you can teach the stuff that we do pretty quickly. It's not rocket science at all. So if, I could probably teach, and I actually did teach someone coming from basically nothing to professional level in 3 years. But this wouldn't help you if your personality doesn't fit, because you actually work in a company, and with our studio we have actually people in the company, so we work as a team very closely together. And if your personality wouldn't fit, then this would be more of a problem than your technical skills. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great to know. Although I hope you've just realized you've opened yourself up for 200 people asking you to make them great in 3 years' time at the end of this now.
Yes. Well,
But I guess kind of related to that question, this is kind of a question open to anyone. I was going to say, when you did get your opportunities, when you started, do you think it was more a case of, you were found, like you were just making work that you enjoyed and worked and, somebody hitched onto that? Or were you, out there chasing, a client for a while and you got one, and then from that it kind of springboarded? Like, do you feel like it was more of a case of someone was attracted to your work, or that you kind of went out and got it for yourself? Because I think a lot of people struggle to prioritize, how much time they want to spend marketing themselves, or like kind of sharing their work, or, actually creating stuff that they like.
I think this could speak a bit broader in the sense that there are situations on your way, on your professional, on your path to like getting paid, where you meet certain people, and you are very well advised to try to stay in touch with most of them, because in the end, this is for me personally every time the same thing. The people that you know for a long time and you try to, or that you have contact with and stay in touch with, they are probably the ones that will put you in contact with someone else, or are at a position at some point where they will remember you and stuff. So basically all jobs that I had went through this social thing.
Just have a quick question for Will before what you were mentioning. So as a student, sometimes it's hard to know, and it's sort of a silly question, but how unique is too unique when you're presenting work? When does it become a niche rather than something that's, stand out but still in the genre or appropriate to the industry? It's a hard question, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need to kind of know the ballpark where you're wanting to shoot for, I guess. A lot of it is down to also your taste. I don't really know if there's a definitive answer to that. I think it's just being aware of what's out there is definitely good. Like, it will give you that framework. But yeah, I think what I was trying to say is don't like just mimic what you're saying. It has to be contextualized by what is already existing, obviously. You can also go beyond that, if you're wanting to give something that's really fresh, try to think in terms of like what is the contrast reaction to whatever is current. So now in the industry, there's more of this push for more graphic design and more simplicity, as it's tending more towards like realism. So I guarantee in like 3, 4, 5 years from now, like AAA will be predominantly very graphic and stylized, even though it's kind of heading that way already. Of course, there will still be like the ultra realism and hyper realism stuff, but just as an example, like, you need to contextualize and really think about what you're doing and the design decisions you're making when you're doing your work. But predominantly, you should have your ideas be informed by the things that exist around you.
Yeah, I guess kind of something I've noticed, like further on that, I think Michael summed it up really well this morning. Was like, if you want to work for a specific company, as you're saying, don't just emulate it. Kind of like find the thing that you hate the most in the projects that you love, so that you can kind of give them some value by fixing a problem for the people that you're working for. And I guess my experience, again, this is more from graphic design than entertainment, but is you can kind of be as weird as the weirdest project that, like, the weirdest media you consume is, because you're a consumer. If you're a consumer of weird media, then there's an audience for it. So as long as, there's something interesting to it. Like, as long as you're not just creating something completely wild and abstract without context, you're kind of proof that there is at least an audience for what you're making. So I think, based on what Will said, it's then kind of about finding how can you add value, or maybe just notice how the general trend of things is actually going. If, say, getting work and maybe getting some money is your goal, like if that's part of your goal, you can't ignore the overall trend. But in terms of uniqueness of work, I think, yeah, as long as it's not weirder than the things you like, you'll probably be all right.
I also wanted to ask, because when you hear this word taste, you know, sometimes it's, well, I guess it's always difficult to describe, actually. I don't know, because I feel like it's something that you definitely can train. I feel like mine's getting better, but it's not there yet, you know? And yeah, having here some art directors and seniors, which your job basically is to have taste, and maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe you can correct me on that, right? But I think it's a big part of your job, you know, and have some criteria at least. How would you say, how would you train your taste and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's basically it, yeah, how would you train your taste?
How would you train taste? Oh, well, I think it's a very personal thing. So either, I mean, I know, I think if you love a certain theme, you develop some ideas of how it should look like, and so you can maybe specialize in an area where you can tell what's good and what's less good. But also, I'm not too sure, because the thing that it's all client work, so you have to work for a client, and your taste is just a bit of a percentage to what the client actually wants, at least in my experience. I don't know if it's with how it's with you guys, but for us, I mean, we can lead them in a certain direction, but the final saying, and we're getting booked for our taste, but the final saying and what they want, this is up to other people actually. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because I do stuff that's absolutely not my taste, but I have to, and at other times I do stuff that I really like, and this is my taste, and the client says no. So taste is a bit overrated, I would say.
Yeah, it's tricky because there's definitely, you know, working in a professional environment, especially as an outsourcing studio, you're catering to what the client is expecting. So, yeah, it's very unique to each person, and it's kind of hard to really give any set feedback in terms of like, this is what you need to do in order to get better at taste or what you think you like. Again, I think it kind of comes back to this idea, at least from my perspective and from my experience, just being culturally aware of the things that are around you, or what has come before, and even like, I don't know, maybe it sounds pretentious, but like looking at art history, you know, and learning about artists' lives and why they were painting in the way that they were painting. You know, everything's a reaction to what's going on around them, and the time and the place. So yeah, again, it's. I don't want to give you any set feedback and say like, this is what you need to do, but just be curious and yeah, absorb what you're interested in, and I think, yeah, just find out why things look the way they do as well. Yeah, it's a hard one to answer. I don't really know if that's...
I feel like the less I've been on the computer, the more taste I've developed somehow, you know? The less I've worked, you know, and given me space to live, basically, the more taste I have developed, you know?
And I guess a kind of building upon that thing, like a skill that maybe you kind of like nurture as you get more senior as opposed to when you're junior. Just in general, I feel like it might be harder to get more and more skills as you go on, or choose which ones to hone. And I find, you know, landing that first job is so difficult for a lot of people. Like, how do you kind of keep yourself interested in learning or keeping that student mindset? Because I've seen quite a lot of people, you know, after they get their first job or two, they kind of stagnate on their learning journey. They kind of get used to creating professional or commercial work, and it's hard to create commercial and professional work. So, you know, they kind of get comfortable cranking that out. Like, how have you guys managed to kind of keep that hunger for being a student? Or did it just never go away for either of you, if that's the case?
I think, at least when you're working, especially if you're in a studio environment where it's like 9 to 5, 5 days a week, it kind of comes in ebbs and flows. Like, it's not constantly like, okay, I need to stress and like push myself. Again, it's, you might find that there's something that comes up in your day-to-day where it's like, I don't know how to do this. I need to, you know, come away and actually learn a bit more in order to do this. at my job more successfully. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to think about this one a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I think for me personally, I mean, I do lots of personal work on the side. So if I do a lot of professional work, then I have to counterbalance it with personal work. Otherwise, I go insane. Because maybe it's a bit of a personality thing again. Because some people have this certain needs for like creative output, and I might have it. I'm not saying that I have it, but there's a good chance that I do. Because also I've been doing this for quite some years now. So. Yeah, this is how. And if you do personal work, then you can do your own stuff and what excites you, and this is how you then expand your whole skill set, basically. Yeah, and this is how it's been for most of the time for me. Oh.
And I guess related to that for the, say, like the students, like, did you find a change in the amount of personal work that you were making when you started making work? Did you kind of find a like difference in your motivation for studying specifically? I don't know if you're maybe really disciplined about studying specific things before you started work, and then once the stress of starting work begins, it falls apart, and maybe try to get it back again. Like, how did you kind of find balancing personal work, studying, and your professional jobs as you got them?
I think for me, it was like the start was very idealistic. Like I decided I want to be a concept artist, and then the first idea was, okay, I'm gonna design a whole village, and it's gonna be a bird view perspective, and it's gonna have a beautiful design, shapes, and everything. And then I started, and I was like, wait, I don't know anything about perspective, and I don't know anything about non-generic medieval villages. And I kind of learned the hard way that I need to go to the fundamentals and study, and it's still something that I struggle with a lot, I would say, like just finding the balance between trying to study stuff and applying it, because I always find something that I'm like not quite satisfied with, and it's hard to fight sometimes, no? But I feel like I'm getting there slowly, so we'll see in a few years.
For me, the amount of personal work I did when I was working, when I started, definitely dropped, and I found that I was like so tired that I couldn't have like this trigger, to my motivation to do it outside. It's true that I was studying so if I struggled with, I don't know, I was doing an illustration, and my art director's feedback was, okay, dude, this looks super flat, Okay, maybe I have to go back to draw some shapes and forms in space and perspective, right? So I would do that. But then I felt like I had this difficulty to go back and draw for myself. But the good thing is with these communities and these discords, and there's always a challenge, there's always, that you can do with some friends, and I think that's very big, and we have to take advantage of that because it gives you motivation. It's free feedback, basically, right? And yeah, those helped me a lot. Do more personal stuff.
I actually wanted to ask you guys, like as a professional working artist with your tool belt, obviously you can't sharpen all your knives at once. So as a professional that's working, and obviously it's relevant to what you're working on, but what are the knives that you keep sharpest at all times? What do you reach for? What are you honing the most when you have to put some things aside?
Yes, that's sort of like, which fundamentals do you find yourself having to like top up the most, or you're like, at least I had these done?
I think probably at the moment the way it all developed is like 3D modeling, I would say, because this is what at least we do. For you, it's different, I imagine. Yeah, you have to stay on, but you have to stay very on point with your 3D modeling skills and what's like new techniques and stuff. But for us, it's cool because as I said, we work in an office and we have like 10 people around, and everyone's pretty good at this. So if you automatically learn quite a bit. So yeah.
Because for me, I've been spending a lot of time learning Blender, and it's such a mammoth task to sort of reach that level where you can create environments in it. And I find that in the time I'm studying it, it's very hard to fit in and replace those fundamentals. So yeah.
What was the question? Sorry.
I think it was kind of alluding to the fact that, you know, from your point of view, it sounded like the fundamentals are kind of the thing that you've owned, and now you're focusing on kind of keeping them relevant in new tools, or like just making sure that you're applying those to changes. And I think Matt was saying, you know, as he's studying, he's finding it very difficult to prioritize whether it's like, I should work on learning enough of the new tools to get a job, or do I
don't
need
know.
to keep focusing on fundamentals?
I actually think that you should sharpen the tool that you like the most. So if you like one thing and you really love it, then you should probably do it. And there's no, it's a bad idea in my experience to try to please someone. Or maybe I'm wrong, could be wrong, but yeah, do what you like. Actually,
Pick one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as an art director and working just with 2D fundamentals, of course, like I kind of need to stay one step ahead of the artists that we work with, which is more challenging than not. So yeah, always coming back to fundamentals. I don't think you can ever really, know 100% of that. So staying on top of the basics, but yeah, I think a lot of the time too, like you naturally come across them anyway when you're helping out with like a paint over, or you need to redraw a pose or anything like that. So even in the work that I do on a day-to-day basis, like I'm still relatively hands-on and still practicing, every day.
I have a question regarding that. So what would you say, what was the last thing that was like a surprise for you while like studying, while being in that like student phase almost, but while being a professional?
Learning new tools, I guess. I've been trying to learn Blender this year, and that's been extremely humbling, and have no clue. A lot of this stuff still seems like wizardry to me. So yeah, still learning new tools, and yeah, just trying to keep that student mindset going, I guess. Yeah.
You're going to have to start introducing yourself as art director and Blender student now. I think we're pretty much at the end of the time for today. So if everyone could give a hand for the members of the panel. And just a kind of final bit of like housekeeping for today would be anyone who's attending the after party will be back in this building at 7 p.m. So hopefully we'll see most of you there and have a fun time together. And I guess just to end the day out, it would be nice if everyone could put their hands together once more for all of the speakers throughout the day. I think they did a really awesome job. And I hope everyone could go out, refuel, eat some food, sleep up, and we'll see you all again to do it again tomorrow. Cheers, everyone.